Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Reef podcast. I'm your host, Luis IPA, joined here by my good co host, Kratos himself. What's up, Kratos?
What's up, Sharky?
Hey, man, it's been a week since we had another podcast, right?
Couple weeks.
Actually,
Been a couple weeks.
Man, so ladies and gentlemen, we got an amazing guest with us. If you look on this side right here, you can actually see him. He's actually live right now. Mr. Casey, welcome in. How you doing?
Pretty good, thanks.
So good to have you here. You mind actually doing a little introduction about yourself so the viewers can actually know who you are and where you come from?
Okay, well, let's see. My name's Kirk Casey. I'm a composer and musician. Been doing it since about 19, playing professionally since I was 12. So I don't know, 1967 maybe.
Oh,
I'll
man.
date myself.
Mhm.
And then got a job working at Maxis, which was making a funny little game called Sim City,
Mhm.
and then started writing music for those guys, and stayed there for about 10 years, maybe till 2004 or 5, something like that.
I got you. So, what actually got you into the music industry, Mr. Casey?
I'd have to say seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan TV and seeing an entire I was raised by a single mother, kind of a latchkey kid. My
Mhm.
mom worked, and so the idea of having all these screaming girls after you, liking you, just because you had a guitar and you could sing, really looked like something I really liked. Anyway, so I started playing guitar and had some really good teachers along the way, and been playing ever since. And that's what that's my main instrument for composition as well.
I got you. So, I know you said like you had some teachers like that actually taught you. Do you want to give them a shout out, if you can?
You mean guitar teachers?
Yeah, the guitar teachers that actually, by all means, you can shout them out here in this interview if you wish
Well,
to.
they wouldn't be known probably. I mean, one recently passed away. His name was George Tickner. He was my first guitar teacher, and he was the rhythm guitarist for a band called Journey.
Oh, wow.
And he founded that band with Neil Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And George was dating my sister, so I
Oh,
got
man.
guitar lessons. Yeah.
That's awesome that you got you got to meet so many people and like so much, like, so many adventures. I mean, for me personally, I mean, I still listen to the Beatles. I still listen to those bands, even though I'm not like, of that age group. I mean, I still praise that music back then because it was so original, so authentic, and so passionate, which is amazing,
Yeah, I think it's definitely timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Good music and any style of good music always lasts. I mean, look, Beethoven and Bach and Debussy and all those classical composers, you know,
Mm-hmm.
great
100%.
music there. Yeah. And then jazz, same thing. You have, some classics are really old, but boy, Kind of Blue or something like that from Miles
Oh,
Davis
man, blues.
to knock you right out.
Don't
Yeah.
get me started on blues. I freaking love blues, jazz.
Yeah.
That's the main reason why I love the state I live in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's all jazz. It's all like blues. It's an incredible experience.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say definitely, certainly everything in the United States is tied to blues,
Mm-hmm.
through our music history. Um, Jazz came out of that
Mm-hmm.
early on, but, certainly blues is in there. And then, the Europeans imported it.
Gotcha.
And then you got guys like Eric Clapton that
Oh, man.
adopted it. And look what he did with it.
Right.
So,
That's awesome. All right, so my co-host here, Nightmare Rising, has a couple of questions to ask you. So we're gonna bounce back and forth between me and him. So Nightmare, you have the mic.
So yeah, you mentioned watching the Beatles as part of what got you into music. Is there any other inspirations you have for like some of the music you compose at all?
Particular songs, you mean, that were used in the games?
Just any of the music you've composed, whether for the games, for shows I've seen you've worked on.
Everything. That's an interesting question, because I draw inspiration from everything. I mean, around me. It depends what I'm focusing on. But as a creative, and at the same time, when you're composing music for a client, okay, that's almost like, in my eyes, being something like an architect. Okay, it's a design thing. It's not as spontaneous and volatile as being a composer at the second. You know what I'm saying? You don't, maybe you don't, but if that makes any sense, I would say it's the difference between somebody pointing you in a direction. So let's just take, for instance, writing a piece of music for Sim City 4.
Mhm.
And there's a area in there where, I don't know if it's called God mode or something like that, but the music that we had to write for that specific area in the game had to sound like the heavens, like something that God was speaking. You know what I'm saying? Something inspirational, voices flying and choirs, and that kind of thing, but not that.
Mhm.
So we had to figure out how to deliver that vibe. Okay. And that's what it boils down to, is what's the vibe? Break the whole song down, or whatever it is that you need someone to write for you. And if you can just get the basic vibe, if it's bass and drums and guitar, like the Beatles, something like that you're making, scoring for, then you're writing for a rock quartet or whatever. But with the Sims, that kind of composition was totally different. We took music that was, let's say, very, very contemporary, and used that as our inspiration. So I don't know if you're familiar with these kinds of these composers, but they were really big in the modern classical music area in the 60s. And John Cage was one guy. And there was a guy named Terry Riley, who's still alive and incredible. Check out Terry Riley's Rainbow in Curved Air. Oh my God, it'll blow you away. Those were the places that, under Jerry Martin's direction, he said, let's go here. Nobody's doing this. No, I haven't heard anything. There's no game company that's coming from this direction. And so we would use that really strong kind of direction to bring the vibes in and create. So that's why the music was so different. I mean, I still hear it and I go, wow, I don't think I would have written music like that if I hadn't been steered in that direction.
Right.
So creatively, what is an inspiration? Inspiration is, music is a science. And there's a certain amount of math, in a way, that goes into everything that you create with it. And so certain things work and certain things don't, just like in science or math, you know what I'm saying? So you learn how to use that as a palette and to make things darker or lighter or purple or black or windy or cloudy or sad or happy. You know what I'm saying? You learn how to hit those emotional areas of consciousness. So any good composer should be able to play one chord that would make you sad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's okay. That's sad to me. You know, or melancholy, or it could also be a statement. If I was, you know, so it could be okay. Look at Andy Summers from The Police said, you know, I'm walking on the moon. That's the first chord of the song, and listen to it. It's so just. It's not a major or minor chord. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, something like, hello, my name is Bert. You know, it's not.
Wow. That's
So
actually.
at any rate, you know, instead of this, we would do.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So anyway,
Wow.
that would be my answer.
Man, what a way to answer that.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So how was the experience working at Maxis? Like, I mean, I know you said that you were there for a few years. I mean, were you ever able to meet Will Wright in person and actually, like, you know, have a talk with him and, like, you know, give him never?
No. I mean, like I said, I think we were chatting before, and I met Will one of the first days I was working, not even as a composer, but as a editor, editing Simlish and inventing Simlish, I guess, somehow. It was crazy. And so my boss just said, you know, took me into his office for a second. And offices at Maxis weren't, they all had glass walls, so it wasn't like he had to even open a door practically. It was, you know, hi, Will. This is Kirk. Will, Kirk. Hi. Thanks. Have fun. Goodbye.
No,
You know,
just a straight,
very
like,
busy.
like literally just 5 minutes. Like, okay, I have time to say hi to you.
5
And then,
minutes, no, 30 seconds.
wow. The man was busy back then, though. Like, I mean,
Everything. Yeah, I mean, that was in the thick of it, and you know, it was a pretty busy place. You know, people were working around the clock, especially, you know, when you get to the, you know,
the crunch time when it comes to, like, you know, actually be, like, you know, ready, be prepared, because I mean, you always have like a deadline that you have to meet, and if you don't meet it, then it's all it's all a mess. I know that for a fact, because I follow a lot of game industries, and when I see that they actually have to push people to work 80 hours a week or 90 hours a week, I'm like, man, that's a little extreme. But I mean, they really want the game to actually come out good. They want to make sure it's polished. There's like a lot of things going on that people don't understand about the game industry.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult programming, I would imagine, all that stuff. I certainly couldn't do it. You know, I cut my teeth on audio engineering to a certain degree because we had to. You know, we were recording people every day, doing the voiceover for the games and stuff like that.
That's a follow-up question I did wanted to ask you, if you're okay with it. How was actually working on doing Simlish? Like, you know, I mean, I know it's a bunch of gibberish.
That was actually one of the most fun things I've ever done, because really, we had these two comedians that were from LA, and they were so good and so quick on their feet, and got into they did all the sim stuff in the very beginning. I mean, when they found them for some reason, and I forget their names. I think the gal has since passed away. But man, they were so good, and they could riff off of each other. You know, we had to do different things. Like I said, it's all an emotional thing. What are you trying to convey? And so, making up these, they would make up the Simlish as they go, and we would just use it, and it would become, you know, something. Whereas, say, in the music, once later on, we were doing pieces of music with Simlish, right, in them, with choruses and everything. that stuff was written by whoever was working on the tune at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I had several pieces of music that had voiceover on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I have contractors that I would normally use, that. And so there was a female singer named Jeannie Tracy who um, has sung with Prince, and I mean, huge in the R&B industry. She was also one of the Weather Girls, which was a band back in the 80s, maybe. Female. They had a hit called "It's Raining Men," and it's a huge, huge song at every gay pride event you can imagine. It's just huge. She's really, really big in that. But and then Larry Batiste, I used him as well. Incredible vocalist, all over the Whitney Houston albums. We have some really big name producers that live here in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So since they live here, the talent's here too. Because
Right.
if you live around here, you can get a job, singing or whatever
Mm-hmm.
with these guys. They don't want to go down to LA and there's enough talent up here for them. So that was the great thing. We had access to just the cream of the crop. If you needed a metal drummer, I could literally call Sammy Hagar's drummer, David Lauser, and hire him to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
game guys weren't doing that then. The people that were making the music for the games when we were doing it were just they had just started using synthesizers, and they had all this corny, crap sounds and shit. It just couldn't. I think we won best game music 4 years in a row or something like that under
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Martin's tutorage, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he, we did stuff that nobody had done, and that's what was so much fun about it. So
All I
you
gotta
were back.
say is, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, all I gotta say is that music definitely changed my way of life, because I grew up playing that and listening to that music. I actually started finding peace within myself.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, um, if you read some of the comments of some of the people on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
Parallel View, a couple of other tracks from Sim City 4, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Parallel View is one. I mean, it's inspiring, and we had to dig real deep to get that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And, there
Now,
was,
the last thing I want to say before I hand over the mic to my co-host here, because I know he's dying to have a question ready. He's ready to have a question. If actually Maxis was to call you again and say like, "Hey, we want you to start working on Sims music for the Sims 5 title," would you be interested in going back and trying again, or you have to
I
think
would
about it?
only be interested in doing something like that and if I could go back with the original lead composer,
I got you.
someone like Jerry Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, I mean, I don't care what you say about how great the musicians were that
Mm-hmm.
came after him and the composers were that came after him. And there's some really good composers. I mean, the guy that took over the next game was the guy from Devo. What's his nuts?
Mm, that's actually
Mark
tough.
Mothersbaugh.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Mark. Yeah, he
And
worked on this. He worked on The
yeah,
Sims too.
right. That's what I'm saying. And he came in after Jerry left.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, the music to me sounded pedestrian. It sounded just like the music from Rugrats, which he was doing on ABC or some television channel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going down the Sims road. He was going down his road
Mm-hmm.
and incorporating his, I guess, to the best of his ability of what the Sims kind of vibe should sound like or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think basically the after him, after Mothersbaugh, I don't know any of the other composers that have done any you know, writing of any of the music. And I wasn't the only one on our team. You know, there were about 4 other people too that wrote some. There was a couple of teams of guys and another 2 friends of mine that worked on, you know, and they didn't maybe have as many songs as say Jerry and I or Mark Russo did, but nevertheless, they were still really creating really good stuff. Like I said, all that music has a vibe to it, and it's the same vibe, and that vibe stops the second new composer comes in, and you can just tell. It's just like, I can't.
I mean, I noticed that a lot of since I currently play The Sims 4, I noticed that some of the music they have there is like almost generated like classic Sims, but I mean it's not the same, of course. But I mean they're trying their hardest. But I mean
I would imagine they are trying because they weren't very nice about their letting Jerry Martin go. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to always have a problem with that. And
you know how some companies are though, like they at the end of the
they're a corporate. They're you know, Maxis was one thing. Maxis was a fun company, small, great vibe, and then when EA took over, it just ruined everything. You know, it became this thing of, okay, now we're going to split up the audio teams and have you guys work against each other.
That's not right. Yeah,
what are you talking about? Against each other? Oh yeah, to see who come up with the most, you know, or what. The corporate thinking, it does not work in those kinds of creative.
It's all about working together, not working separate. I mean, that's how you make great music. If you don't work together, then like, you know, I mean, it's great, like, you know, to compete, but I mean, at the same time, if you have a team full of like music composers and everything, you actually get them together so that way they can all create like something like, you know, that's perfect for the theme of whatever they're doing.
I agree.
All right. Yeah. All right, Nightmare, what you got?
Yeah, so kind of before I ask the question, kind of like what he was saying, it's one thing for like friendly competition where you're working together, but okay, you know, what sounds better. It's one thing for that, but it's another when you're actively against each other. I
don't want to mislead you and say that, you know, somebody said that we were going to work against each other. I'm just saying that through the way that they ran their business, okay, it created a vibe that was like that. It wasn't it wasn't spoken about, but it was felt. You know what I mean? It wasn't anyway.
Oh yeah. So the question I have, you've mentioned being and just composing music for, you know, Maxis, and for I've seen numerous different things on your resume. Is there any projects you've turned down that you wish you would have worked on as well?
You know, I wish I was that lucky. I can't turn down anything. I don't know if it's my personality or what, but I don't think I've ever really turned down anything. I'm too gullible.
Hey, I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
Me a can of fish with nothing in it. I don't know, but I tend to believe the best in people. So if somebody comes to me with a really good idea, or I hear something, you know, I'm all for it, no matter how much economic sense it makes.
So that's actually something I wanted to interfere real quick. If we were to ask you to compose a theme for the Reef podcast, would you be willing to do it?
How long?
Like I would say probably like 2 minutes or 1 minute 30 or 2 minutes around there. Just like a little theme, like so that way, like, you know, we can use it here, and like, you know, when we finish, like, you know, the intro, we can always, like, you know, shout you out and let him know, like, you know, hey, this came from Kirk Casey. Go check him out on Spotify. He has like a whole, like, download his music there. Like, you know, just basically, like, you know, just to have music like that, just because we love your music, because from Sin City, from Sims, and that's something I was like thinking like the whole week. I was like, I'm gonna ask this question because I don't know how he's gonna feel, but I
You
have
want to
to.
just you could just take a minute or 2 minutes out of any of the pieces of music, couldn't you?
Hmm.
Would that do?
No, but I mean, like just something like that would actually
You want
be like out of the blue, like
for
out of
you?
brand new, exactly.
Sure, I could. I'll do that for you.
Awesome, because we definitely like would love to have that because I mean how I told you like it's all about I'm all about the jazz, the blues, and everything, and that's what I want the main theme of the podcast be like. Basically, be like a jazzy, like vibe instead of being like all serious. I want it to be like a relaxing way to like relax on a Sunday after work, or if you're not working, like relax after you do all your things that you have to do for the night.
You like Latin music?
Latin music is pretty good too.
I mean, I have there's vibe. I mean, do you want a Sims vibe?
Yeah, definitely give me a Sims. I know my coach is like, yeah, he does. He wants the Sims vibe. Because I've been following for quite a while, and it'll be great to like have something like that, like on the intro for sure.
All right, I'll send you a couple of different things, and you can see what might work best for you. Where do you want me to send it? Best is for me is to email it to you.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely send you my Gmail.
So just shoot me an email,
Hmm.
and I'll reply to that.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. All right, Mr. Casey. So Nightmare had a couple of questions that he was gonna ask you as well, and if I have something that will come up while he's asking, then I'll gladly like ask after he finishes his questions.
So you'd mentioned with being in the location you're at, a lot of the artists and stuff. I know actually been a few months now. Uh just before Thanksgiving, I actually went and visited the Motown Museum. Did you get to meet any of the artists out there that worked with the Motown records?
I have not been to Motown or Motown Records. No.
Oh wow.
Does it say somewhere that I did?
No,
Oh,
I figured with how big of a name they were, like they
yeah.
would have came in to work with like Maxis or something if they had the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a yeah, just to answer your short question, no.
All right, you got another one, Nightmare?
Last question I have. Of all the projects you've worked on, the different games and everything, what would you say personally, not just games, but the TV shows and everything, what was your favorite project that you've ever worked on?
I don't know, the Sims stuff was pretty high time. That was rock star living, you know. That was at our peak. We were moving a lot of music. I'd say out of the enjoyment of really digging deep and creating something, uh, yeah, definitely this working on some of the Sims music because you just come up with stuff you didn't think you could do. I think that's probably one of the biggest creative markers you can put on yourself is when you do things that you don't know you can do. Your reservoir is full, right? You've got all this data in yourself,
Mhm.
but it's not always accessible. And somehow, when the music muse hits you or whatever, then you have access for a brief time. It's the only way I see it. I don't know. Anyway,
All right,
that
so we
answers.
actually have a question here from Rio Stream Official. He asked if you had to change one thing about the Sims franchise, what would it be?
Well, I don't know a lot about the Sims franchise. I mean, the only thing I know about it is the work I did while I was there.
Hmm.
And so the only thing I would change about it, I mean, it seemed like they were listening to the wrong people as far as maybe what their direction needed to do and why they needed a music change. I I found very mind-blowing personally.
I mean,
because it had something already working so well that people were, kids all around the world emailing us, oh, do you have the chart to this song? It's so cool. I'm going to play it with all my tuba friends or whatever. Nerds across the world were contacting us about this far out music. And I think that's what The Sims is supposed to be all about. The game is supposed to, Will Wright as a person. I mean, that's what he's all about, is that boundless, way, way out there stuff. Did you ever check out a game called Spawn? Or Spore, excuse me.
Spore, yes, Spore.
Okay. So I worked a little bit on Spore too. And that was still having a good creative period of time there, being able to do stuff that was completely different. Anyway, yeah. I don't really know much about the franchise, but as a franchise, I think they blew it, because everybody I read that is on YouTube commenting on the music, the old music, says, oh, well, the new music's nothing like the old music. And they're right. It's nothing like it. And so
I tell you that right now.
I don't understand why they would get rid of something that worked.
Let me just put it this way. The music went from like being like this to literally start dropping down. And that's the main reason every time I play this, no matter what Sims it is, I will always have Sims 1 and some Sims 2 music, or SimCity 3000 or SimCity 4. Just because you can't beat those. Like, no matter what you do, even if you make a remaster of the music they have, it's not going to be the same. I'm sorry. Like, I'm still going to listen to the original soundtrack just because it has a very special place in my heart.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, creatively, it was just so different. And that's why the Beatles are different. There were a lot of bands that had 4 people in them, and 2 guitar players and a bass player and a drummer. And they were writing music too, but they weren't the Beatles, and they weren't the Rolling Stones or whoever. And when you do something that has so much character to it, then for somebody to come along and copy you, or to maybe somehow, and rightfully so, I mean, they have every right to do whatever they want about their games. I'm not saying that, I'm disagreeing with that choice, because I'm not working anymore there.
Hey, but I mean, you said like if they actually let you be creative and literally do what you want with the music, then you basically like, oh, I'll do it, right? Like if they actually give you full creativity of like,
yeah, but here's the other thing you got to realize though, is when you work in this kind of circumstance, you get paid up front and you don't get any publishing. You get very, very little publishing. And as I've grown older, and I'm living off of my publishing now, for all the work that I did prior and the work that I'm doing now for television and stuff. So that's all residual payment, and that feels pretty good. When you're not doing something, you go to the mailbox and there's a check there, and I didn't do anything last week, but I got a check, for something I did 6 months ago, whatever. So that's not, I couldn't. There would have to be I don't know who's working there anymore, but there would definitely have to be some personnel changes if I were to have to come back, because
I mean,
people that I feel just didn't get it.
Yeah, and also The Sims is actually about to get a big competitor go against them, because there's a game called City Skylines that beat out SimCity, like the current SimCity that came out. And now they have one called Live by You that's going to be another life simulator that literally, like, it's the same guy that helped make The Sims 2. and he literally went off on his own and said, "Hey, I'm gonna start my own company. I'm gonna start my own open world." Now, basically, now that they turned down Sim City, they're actually trying to compete with the Sims franchise, and they're like, "Okay,
Wow.
yeah." So,
Well, everything has a life, and it's born, it grows and lives, and then it dies. I mean, and there's a length of time to any good thing.
Mhm.
So if the Sims were to go on and morph into something else, I'm sure they're. I don't know if EA has ever been satisfied with the Sims and
Mm-mm.
how much revenue they brought in or didn't bring in or whatever. All I know is they made them a lot of money when I was there.
I mean,
250 million copies of, Sims games is a lot.
mm-hmm. So, for me, for example, for this one, for Sims 4, I'm not even kidding you. I spent already over $1,000 on packs, like DLCs. Just because I'm a big fan of the Sims franchise, I literally spent over $1,000 on expansion packs.
Wow.
And that's how devoted I am to the franchise. I told myself, whenever I have kids, they're gonna learn about Sims 1, not Sims 4, not Sims 5, whatever it is. They're learning from the original. I'll be like, hey, this is what I grew up with. And now you're actually gonna have to continue my legacy of collecting Sims games.
Well, like I said, it's funny. Will Wright, his first office was literally in the same little town of Orinda where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, since we were little kids, kind of grew up in this little town. So his office was right next to this movie theater, this old movie theater. And then, you read it in the local newspaper. Oh, 13-year-old boy creates incredible, who is this? And then the next thing I know, I'm, an adult, and this guy's hiring my best friend to do his game music for him. It was astonishing. So it was kind of neat, but it was all around here.
It's always great whenever you get recognized for your talent that you have. Like when people actually recruit you and they're like, hey, I'm using you for this certain subject. And like it feels amazing because I mean you feel recognized and you feel like you put in something into the world that's actually having a positive outcome.
That would be a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we actually have a question here from Reassurance Official saying, what was the reason they gave for changing the music, if you know?
I have no idea. I really literally woke up one morning and got a phone call, and my friend was like, yeah, they walked me to the door, and no one knew whether it was something personal or
now
business. I have no idea.
Now, Enforced Piper here, he actually has a question. How many other games outside of The Sims have you made music in?
Zero.
Only the Sims franchise and the SimCity franchise, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And if you're okay with this, are you okay with playing one of the tracks of either SimCity 4, SimCity 3000, or The Sims? Whichever one you like to play, we'll give you the mic so you can actually play a song from there. So that way the listeners can actually know what real music is.
I mean, you want me to play the song on my guitar or play the song?
Play the song on your guitar.
Oh, I haven't played that stuff in forever.
If you can, or if you can play bits and pieces.
I could solo on guitar, a la Sims, but let's face it, that stuff's compositionally pretty dense. I'd be happy to play you a track. I mean, go to Spotify right now. Play the number one tune there.
I got you.
Can you do that?
Yep, I can definitely do that right now.
Yeah, that's a really nice tune.
All right.
In fact, it's called Sim Nights, I think. And
yep, I have it right here. All right, guys, we're actually about to play one of Kirk Casey's number one hit on his playlist on Spotify, which will be available on the YouTube channel later when we upload the episode. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and here it is.
Any way I can hear it?
I believe everyone's hearing it on the live segment right now.
I see.
But I'm definitely only playing the first minute because I don't want him to hear like the whole.
And it's long. Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's up to over 1 million streams.
Yeah.
Good.
1,302,694 downloads for this song. Incredible.
Is that the kind of jazz you like?
Yes, this is the kind of vibe I like a lot.
Okay, because I have something that might work for you that I just did that is just like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
might be nice upbeat.
Over here we have a enforced Piper saying there will never be music like there was back in the day.
Oh, shucks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And then,
so I was hoping Louis here would ask this, but he hasn't asked it. I gotta ask this question because it's the funniest thing I do to him anytime he's playing anything with Sims. Who composed the Fear music?
no.
The Fear music?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's like whenever you have a burglar come on the Sims game, you hear like a really dark eminence, like like a dark feeling. And my co-host here, every time he comes to my live streams, he uses that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who in the world play that? And we always wanted to know, like who composed that? Like who's the one that came up with like the terrifying noises like that?
I would think that would be Jerry.
Really?
It would have been Jerry, yeah.
Wow.
Because we did all the sound design. I remember doing hours and hours of just guitar effects, little quick things like with a wah-wah pedal or taking strings and going, like, let's see, like, or something. Goofy sounds, but making them all for different things that would happen in a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would imagine it would have been Jerry, probably.
That's awesome. But I mean, the fact that you can still make like some funny, silly sounds like that, it's great. Like, it's just funny. Just hearing that. All right. So Rio Stream Official here says, is there any differences in the business side of doing music for games versus TV or movies?
I would say there's a definitely big difference because at least with EA, they own your publishing and you only get your composer publishing. So in my case, those million streams that you see on Spotify, none of that's going in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
That's going in EA's pocket. And it's not even going in their pocket anymore because they sold all of our copyrights, all of that music to a company in LA that farms it out. I had one song called Steel Drum Paradise on Sims Vacation. Okay.
Okay.
And I had someone out of the blue on LinkedIn from Scotland email me and say, hey, I think one of your pieces of Sims music is being used illegally in a new show. And I said, what? How could that be? And so what it was what's his name? He did the show on Netflix. Oh God, Mike Myers. Okay, the Pendantrant or Pendrant, or it was some kind of series that he did. Okay, recent. It was very big, and then the last scene the last cue is my tune from a Sims game, and it's Coconut Paradise or whatever, and I heard it and I'm like, holy shit, that's 5.5 seconds on this Netflix. I didn't know anything about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go to my publishing company and I said, here's the title. I don't see a cue sheet for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you get when stuff is performed on television. You get what's called a cue sheet. So you can keep track of it when it was done, and so you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing. So I found out who the music supervisor was, and I contacted her, which is a real taboo in the industry. Composers are never supposed to contact a music supervisor directly.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a little bit of wiggling, and I just said, I don't want any work from you. I just want to know if you use this piece of music of mine. And she said, yes, but I retitled it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so here's the new title. And certainly there it was in my publishing. And, I got $130 or whatever instead of,
Damn.
$3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And EA sold all those publishing rights. So that's the big difference between games. I mean, they own the publishing, at least as far as I know. And you sign up. When you work for a big company and they own your everything that you come up with while you're working for them, all your creative data. When you leave, they're going to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Or do whatever they want with it. There's nothing you can do about it. So, like I said, writing music in a different, not corporate, but more of a business, like the music business, where you write a good song, somebody likes it, they play it, they may use it. So at any rate, I actually just use my own name now as a composer to advertise. And I use a music library to store all of the music that I'm working on there. So people can easily go to, it's called the supervisor, right? And they can go to the supervisor and they can see all the stuff that I've done. I've got about over 400 pieces of music there.
Wow.
And that's where a music supervisor can go. And if you want to license that music, it's all there. And it shows you, it's a really cool place. You should check it out sometime. It's created by a company called Score Keepers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
CORE Keepers, and it's called the Supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And go to there, and on their filter, if you go to the advanced filter, you can actually type in which composer you're looking for down in the bottom left, and type in my name, Kirk Casey, because they have probably 1,000 composers. It's a huge company.
Right.
But at any rate, it's easy for me to go on LinkedIn or someplace where music supervisor is kind of there, engaged, talking to people or whatever, and say, hey, I'm here now. And I have a place where I can easily be found.
Right.
And it's working really well. It's great. Or you can go to Kirk Casey at SoundCloud, and you can see the same kind of thing where I've put in about, 30 or 40 new pieces of music. And I'm getting 5,000 streams now.
Well, just so you know, I mean, I know we talked before we were on the air. I mentioned how we actually later uploaded to YouTube, Amazon Music, on all these different websites that actually show a little slideshow on the live stream. If you want us to actually add, all the places where we can find your actual music, by all means, you can send me the links so that way we can actually put it on the description so people can see where to get your music.
Oh, that would be great.
Because, I mean, that's the main purpose that we have on here on the Reef podcast all these 4 years. We don't look for, to get more exposure for, people to come in and everything. This is more to promote musicians like yourself, voice actors, live streamers. And that's all it is. It's just promotion purposes. So that way...
Well, like I said, for me... people know where to find my music typically. You type in my name and it comes up with several different places. But the newest thing I've been doing is parking all of this music at this site now. called The Supervisor, and it's great because, like I said, I don't have to engage trying to sell something.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's there, easy to see, easy to maneuver around, to solve the emotions, everything that a music supervisor, what they look for in how the tunes are structured.
Right.
You should check it out. It's interesting, and it'll give you a good insight as to what people look for in music that's going to be behind it. We call that underscore. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the music that I write for underscore is called a cue, and that's the cue, right, for whatever scene is happening. So that last cue that I had in The Pendanderant, or whatever Mike Myers called that show, it was great though. I had my 10 seconds of fame again.
Mm-hmm. You had like a little, what do you call nowadays? A little cameo.
Maybe nothing said my name on it or anything, but I could at least tell my friends, hey, there I am.
Just a little
I'm
second.
still relevant.
Right. Well, we're actually getting to the point that we're actually going to ask you the silly, out of the blue, goofy questions here on the Reef podcast.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So thank you again to everybody that actually has listened in so far. Shout outs to the Rio stream team for letting us actually stream this live on Rio, on Twitch, and iHeart Radio. All you guys are simply amazing for like watching this live segment. If you actually missed it by any chance, ladies and gentlemen, you can always catch the YouTube a few days later. My amazing editor by the name of NickyD will actually be able to like actually download the podcast episode, compress it, make it like, professionally, like, done, which he does an amazing job, and literally like, upload it later to YouTube, Apple Music, all those different brands. And the good thing is that once you post them somewhere, you're able to basically branch it out everywhere automatically. It's no more you have to upload individually to each one. Now it's basically like, you upload somewhere, it's everywhere at an instant. I mean, it's not like back in the day. But all right, so last time Nightmare was the one that started with the questions. So I'm going to start with this one. Do you prefer pineapples on pizza? Yes or no?
It's not that I prefer pineapples on pizza, but I do put pineapple on pizza. My daughter likes pineapple on pizza. But I'm 50-50. I'm making pizza tonight, actually, but I'm not going to probably put pineapple on it.
All right. If you don't mind me asking, what toppings you're putting tonight?
Toppings are going to be obviously some mozzarella. I'm going to make some pesto.
Ooh,
I get off with you guys. I just picked some fresh basil, so I'm going to make some fresh pesto. And instead of a red sauce, I use a pesto sauce with olive oil instead of the red sauce on a pizza. So my pizzas are kind of green. And then olives, some chicken or sausage, maybe, mushrooms, maybe some capers. That's probably about it.
Over here, Enforced Piper asks, what's the worst topping for a pizza?
My wife really loves anchovies.
Well, if your wife is actually listening to this podcast, she'll actually be like, wait a minute, what?
No. We've been married too long for that to even be a problem.
But if you actually let her listen, like she'll actually hear and she'll be like, wait a minute, you said this? You said you don't like anchovies?
I used to not like anchovies. I got diagnosed with a heart condition, was told to increase my sodium, which is weird.
Yes, you would think the opposite.
You would think, but apparently it helps with the heart condition that I have. And so I was told, like, put anchovies on pizza. Like, it's the highest sodium thing you can get on a pizza. I was like, I don't like anchovies. They're like, trust me, it'll work. So I had to find things to go with the anchovies.
Yeah. You have to find the right thing so that way you don't taste the anchovies on the pizza.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Nightmare, what is your tomatoes are good. All right, what you got, Nightmare?
So we'll kind of stick with the whole pizza thing. Do you prefer pizza or wings for like a snack?
I would say pizza. I do like wings though, but they're kind of almost too addictive for me. So if I had plate of wings in front of me, I'd probably eat the whole thing. Whereas I could probably just have one slice of pizza.
Really? Well, for me, I mean, I can personally eat a eight piece pizza if I want to. All right. So my next question is, if you could have a superpower between being invisible or being able to fly, which one would you choose and why?
Well, I think hands down it would be invisible.
Hmm.
You know, that might lead me to a life of crime, though. I've watched too many movies.
We get
or just the perfect pranks.
Yeah, or the perfect pranks. There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
I mean, I know
my mind immediately goes down the wrong way.
I already told my co-host in the last segment that we had that if he ever comes behind me invisible and scares me, I'll literally jump off my seat and be like, "Where in the world are you?" And then he'll just laugh and be like, "I'm over here." All right, what you got, Nightmare?
So if you were to go camping, would you go camping in like a tent, or would you prefer going in like a camper, an RV, staying in a cabin, something like that?
I've done every kind of camping known to man and woman. So I prefer, as long as the bed's comfortable. It depends really what you're doing. If you're out in the woods, I'd love a tent. If you're out on the coast where the wind's blowing and you want to wake up in the morning and go down to the beach, then an RV is nice, because then you have a nice place to escape to. But if you're off in the woods, I like, that's just fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're right about the beach. I mean, if you go to the beach, RV all the way. But I mean, if you go to like the mountains or the forest and stuff, that's definitely camp, like a little tent, I would say. All right. So here's this question that everybody gets intrigued by my answer. So
here we go.
All right. So this is the one that literally makes everyone question who I am. So do you eat cereal?
Yes.
Okay. Do you pour the milk after the cereal, or do you put the milk first and then the cereal?
Oh, cereal first.
Cereal first.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Louis, tell him.
Okay, so
bananas and blueberries.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that for me personally, every time I have cereal, I always put the milk first and then the cereal?
See, I couldn't calculate how much milk to put in because I wouldn't know how, the level that I like it at until I pour the stuff in.
Hey, at least you answered more professionally than other guests that we had here. Like, other guests are like, "What kind of human are you? You're not even human. Who are you?"
Well, my kids are growing, but my daughter's 19, and I remember back when she was younger. Nothing surprises me.
Kids nowadays just do the craziest things now. Like, it's insanity. All right, what you got, Nightmare?
Do you prefer eating donuts or bagels for breakfast? For like something quick?
Neither.
Really?
I don't eat either. I'm at a stage in my life where I'm pretty boring. I mean, the days of me eating donuts are gone. I mean, if I do get my hands on a donut, I certainly don't want my wife to see it because she'll take it away.
Well, I'm pretty sure, like, what you can do is like take a bite of one, look around, see if she's around, and then if she's not, just go ahead and hide them. Like, put them somewhere that she can't even find them. That's the smartest way you can. But all right.
Hey, they're sneaky, man. They'll find everything.
All right. So my final question that I have here for the Reef podcast is, okay, let's say you're out in the forest, right? And you're heading home. And there's two paths that you can take. But you have no, like, all you have is, like, your normal clothes, your fists, but you can't, like, there's no, like, you're already past the woods area and you're just, like, in a path. If you take the left side, you'll find one bear-sized goose on your way there. If you take the right path, a bear-sized goose.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Wow.
Okay, and then if you go to the right side, if you decide to take the right side, you'll basically find 100 geese-sized bears. So which path?
Which way would I go?
Which way would you go, and how would you handle the situation?
I think I'd go the bear-sized goose way because I think I could outmaneuver it.
Really?
Yeah, I think I could probably outmaneuver it because if it was the size of a bear and it was a goose,
Mm-hmm.
it would have these giant feet that would get in its way. Probably they don't run very well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could probably figure out a way to.
There's a theory that one of our guests had over here in the Reef podcast before that told us that if you point a green laser pointer to their feet, they get scared, they get intimidated.
Huh.
I was like, okay, I have not tried it, but if I ever gets to the point that I can actually do it, I'm willing to do it and post my answer. I'll be like, okay, this is to the person that said that the laser pointer will work. Theory works or the theory doesn't work.
Yeah, what was that science show that they proved and disproved everything?
Ripley's Believe It or Not?
No.
Mythbusters.
Thank you.
Yeah, that one's a good one. Yeah.
That was great. I loved it when they would just go blow things up. It was just so much fun.
There's a lot of shows back then that were awesome. All right. Yeah. So is there any questions you have for me and my co-hosts here by any chance?
I really don't. No.
Okay. So any last shout outs that you want to give to anybody out there?
I don't know who's out there. So to everybody out there, hey, great to hear you. And you can come and check me out. I'm in the book.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we'll definitely have like all your Spotify playlist. We'll have all your information so that way people can actually go and check out your music online. And by all means, we appreciate the heck out of you for the amazing music you composed back in the day.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
No problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this actually ends the live segment of the Reef podcast. I'm your host, Louis IPA. Kratos down there is ready for our next segment, which is going to happen really soon. So stay tuned for the next episode. We should have a fun one. It's always fun. Mr. Casey, it's been a pleasure.
All right, you guys. Take it easy. I'll look forward to your email.
Sounds good. I appreciate you, sir.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
As always, today's episode of the Reef podcast was streamed live on Twitch. If you could not make it to the live stream of the podcast, you can always listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and iHeart Radio. Thanks for listening. See you next time.